I first wanted to thank you, Philip, and Liedewij, and Isabella and Elettra for inviting me to talk about this project again. And I also want to say to Isabella and Electra that when we were doing Friends of Light, we were actually dreaming of a farm like you have manifested. So it's really beautiful to see it. A farm that nurtures all aspects of our well-being, including, very importantly, community. So I'm aware, I was very delighted when Philip and Liedewij asked me to present Friends of Light again. And I was aware that many of you already have seen me present these jackets, because it's been about 10 years when we did our first sales presentation at Liedewij's space in the village in New York. But it's something, the jackets and Friends of Light, it's very close to my heart. So I'm also really grateful to connect to it again and to share it with all of you. So Friends of Light started actually from many different projects and initiatives that I had initiated or was part of in New York and in upstate New York. With friends and colleagues, we were already researching fiber farms in upstate New York. I moved to Beacon at that time. And among others, it was Laura Sansoni, who now has the New York Fiber Lab, that we were really visiting farms and seeing what kind of fiber animals are present. Because at the time, there was no connection between the design community in New York and the amazing farmers in upstate New York. We knew it from the Sheep and Wool Festival that every fall is in Rhinebeck, upstate New York. And there's so much knowledge there, and people really keep sheep there for the fiber, so not for meat or for dairy. And they just have so much knowledge about the fibers, about the sheep, about the different breeds, about how to keep sheep, because they just are, they are in it for the love of the fiber and the sheep. Another aspect was we had started work circles. I was researching intentional communities and worker co-ops. And with Friends of Light, we came together as developing a financial and economic activity for a worker co-op. So at the time, Friends of Light was Meg Holborn, Jessie Hyatt, Nadia Yaron, and myself. And each jacket that you will see in a little bit is the expression of the collective knowledge of all the people involved. Starting with the farmer and the people who were spinning the yarns, people who worked with us on business aspects of the cooperative. So it's really the collective knowledge that becomes part of these jackets. This is something at the time that I was, as a fashion designer, that's my background, very interested in. This the selvage of a fabric. So you have the warp yarns, which go vertically, and then you have the weft that every time kind of goes around the corner on the side of the fabric. And it always gives a sense of irregularity. It's never a really straight line. And for me, that sensitivity is really beautiful. So when I was a mentor at the Textile Art Center, I asked for exchange to learn how to weave, because I had never learned how to do that as a designer. And while I was weaving these pieces of cloth, I thought, oh, this is really not something that I can give my heart to. But what if I can weave a jacket in its form, in the patterns? This is a frame loom. So we use different looms for that. The frame loom, this is one of the first small looms of Sheila Hicks. She used to weave miniatures to try out little things, but also for her series Minime. So these are little nails that you see on the top and on the bottom. And you can put the thread around those. This is a backstrap loom. I worked with women in Guatemala for about 5 years with students of the New School. And we were supporting the women to build a business from the crafts that they were doing. And the backstrap loom also has the possibility to weave a 4-selvaged piece of cloth. And 4-selvaged means that all the sides are finished. So there's no cutting involved. It's not like weaving a larger piece and then cutting it to size, but it's weaving exactly the size. And that means that the whole structure stays intact, that there's no yarn that's being cut. We also discovered that in Peruvian, in the pre-Columbian time, that they used to weave for selvage cloth, actually. Yeah. They wove all the cloths to the exact measurements that they needed it. So it's a very different way of approaching relating with textiles. This is the first sample I made. I took it home for Christmas to my mother, spending time with my mother. These are the pieces. So you see the nails here as well. These are the pieces that were woven, and this was the first jacket. And this took me about 120 hours to make, which was substantial. And then we thought that this would be a possibility, that we would really explore making those jackets and just start to explore that and doing research in it. We connected with Buckwheat Bridge Angoras, the farm of Sarah Healy. And I immediately felt such a strong connection with her because she had so much knowledge and so much love for the sheep. She knew so much how to keep the sheep and the goats. And the care she had for the animals, the care she had for the fiber, the knowledge she had around it was just amazing for me. And she had on her farm, here you see the sheep, they are Cormo sheep, which is a crossbreed between a Corriedale and a Merino. And a Merino has a very fine micron, and Corriedale has a long staple. And I also knew that if we were going to weave these jackets, they would be sold at a high cost price. So they really needed to be well made, and the wool needed to be in such a good quality that it wouldn't pill. So a fine micron, a long stable kind of, make sure that there's less chance for doing that. The sheep, they wear little coats to protect the fiber during the year. These are the Angora goats, which give mohair. And the mohair gives a bit of luster and has a bit of weight, so it makes the fabric drape a little bit more. And that's Sarah walking to the barn. These are the goats in the barn. She had a mill on her farm, which was amazing, a mini mill, the Belfast mini mill, and it was wind and solar powered. This is the mill inside. So we could actually develop the yarns together with her. And for me, this was just so amazing. As a designer, I'd never been able to get so close to where everything comes from, the farm. Being on the farm, meeting the animals, working with Sarah, and really creating the jackets from the animals to the jacket was such a connecting and amazing experience for me. Because I remember being on the farm and walking there, and I thought, wow, if you don't understand this, then you can have all kind of ideas about the world, but what do they mean really? So this is Sarah in the farm. And so the yarns that we made, they were 80% wool and 20% mohair. And we mixed different colors. We tried different ways of twining, of different because Sarah likes to really make very tight yarns because that's most secure. The tighter and the more twisted the yarns are, the less chance of little ends coming out, which causes pilling. And she had a very good sense, a very amazing sense of quality. So that was really important to her. But in the end, we made more loosely twisted yarns, and most of them had a thick yarn and a thin yarn combined, so that there was aliveness in the yarn itself. And that was really important to me and Drake. We were also constantly testing the yarn as we were spinning it. We developed in total 5 yarns with Sarah, and here you see them drying after washing them. So that process alone already was really, really so amazing to me. Here we are practicing the backstrap loom. This is May, one of the members of Friends of Light. She and I mostly practiced backstrap loom weaving because I imagined that if we could fill in most of the panel with the backstrap loom piece, it would go much quicker. But in the end, it took us actually 160 hours to make one jacket. So this is the second prototype where we use the backstrap loom in the piece. We had challenges with the backstrap loom and mostly with the edges. So we asked Kierma, a woman that we met through the Textile Art Center, if she could support us in refining our technique with the backstrap loom. This is one of the jackets, the half moon jacket, pocket jacket. So here you see the backstrap loom piece. And because the fabric is completely intact, all the loops of the warp are intact at the bottom and at the top. We can again suspend warp yarns from those loops. And this is then how the jacket comes into being. There are little, in the sleeves you see that there are triangles left open. And we use them to weave the front and the back panel to the sleeve. Yes, so all the tools were handmade as well. This is outside where we were working, mostly outside. And the pockets were woven on as well. Yeah, and this way of weaving has a lot of possibilities because we can work with a discontinuous warp as well. So there can be different warps, different qualities of warp in one setup. You see the triangles of the sleeves, the pockets. So the jackets in itself are quite simple. And yeah, we also imagined that if a jacket would be such a time investment, that it would be good to have a simple jacket, but that had a lot of beautiful details. And the design mostly comes from the weaving techniques that we use inside. And here you see as well the pocket that's woven on in the inside of the jacket. It's the first sales event. It is Mitsuko that bought one of the jackets. So we did private sales events and we would make the jackets to size for each customer. This is Jordana. She ordered a jacket and she asked if we could weave fabrics into her jacket that she inherited from her grandmother. Weaving on the pockets. This is her jacket. And then for the second series, we wanted to use linen as a material to combine it with the wool. And then we discovered that it was very hard to find locally grown linen or flax, actually. At that time, there were no people growing it locally. And we thought we had found 2 men in Pennsylvania, but it happened that they actually got the fiber from Vanderbilt in the Netherlands. Then I called Vanderbilt in the Netherlands and they said, no, we don't have organic flax at all. So then we found, through other people, we found Taproot Fiber Lab in Canada, Nova Scotia. And they were growing on their farm. They had a homestead farm where they were growing everything for their everyday needs. And Patricia really wanted to grow flax as well as part of so that they could make their own, grow their own clothes on their farm. But then we had the flax, but spinning, because of the flax has very long fibers, and that makes it really hard to spin. So in the US, actually, during the Industrial Revolution, flax was never, it never developed spinning machines for flax, because it was much easier to develop spinning machines for cotton. And we know that in the US, cotton was big, mostly through slave labor. So that would never happen. The US had a flourishing linen industry at the end of the 18th century, when everything was still done by hand. But it completely disappeared with the Industrial Revolution. So I had to hand spin everything. So we found, through the New England Linen and Flax Study Group, we found Justin. And Justin had a beautiful old farm from the 18th century in Vermont. And Justin has the Burroughs Garret, and he is a hand weaver. And at the time, he was mostly recreating historical textiles, often for renovations, restorations of monuments. So that was his craft. So he was used to hand spinning everything and hand weaving everything, because that's how it was done in the 17th and 18th century, for instance. So he had also so much knowledge and so beautiful sensitivity towards materials. So we asked him to hand spin the linen, because the jackets are hand woven. We couldn't work with the linen, actually, because it's too thin. It would take us a year to weave one jacket. So we asked him to mix the flax with the wool fiber, so that we would have a more substantial yarn, so that the jackets could still be woven in a reasonable time frame. So we did a lot of tests with him together. We developed a beautiful yarn. Actually, this is a spinning wheel that he had learned to spin on when he was 5 years old from his grandmother. He was an amazing spinner. This is a really challenging spinning wheel, actually, to spin on, but yeah. This is the yarn we developed. We asked him to spin a yarn that was irregularly spun, which he was not really in favor of, because he knows, and I know that in the meantime as well, that hand spinning, actually, it becomes by itself, it becomes really uniform, which is also the beautiful quality of it. So this is, in a way, it's forcing us to kind of make it irregular. But we wanted the bulkiness of it. This is when it's hanging. This was the yarn that we developed. So it's a linen, it's the short fibers of the flax with the wool. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. Well, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And then we did a lot of tests, like, how are we going to use this? And in the end, it was really challenging that it was so irregular. I couldn't connect with any of the little tests that we did, until Nadia came up with this way of weaving, which gave structure to the bulkiness of the yarn. So adding structure in the weaving, as you see here, there are kind of stripes by having a more dense weave and a more loose weave. This is the jacket that came from it. So by bringing structure in the weaving, it was actually really beautiful, the irregularity of the yarn. And then this is just the last end of it. I moved back to the Netherlands in 2018. I was invited to redesign the master fashion design at ArtEZ. And it was just so important for me, the experience that I had working with the farmers directly. I had never done that in my life as a designer. So I really wanted students to experience that as well. So I initiated the Linen Project in 2018. And very quickly, Willemien Ipel from the Crafts Council became a collaborator, and Melanie Beaumont became the project coordinator. And together, and afterwards, together with this whole amazing growing community, we are really producing linen in the Netherlands at the moment. And there's beautiful initiatives like the shared stewardship, where people really grow flax together a year long and do everything by hand. And they make collective decisions, because for me, that's still very important. And it's a very strong and beautiful community that's growing. This was a student, Taka, who grew the amount of flax one needs for a t-shirt. And the website of Friends of Light and the Linen Project. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Pascale, for sharing your incredible work with us. I'm sure it's inspiring lots of other people to perhaps work closer with their communities wherever they might be. I know that there are people watching today from all corners of the planet, including people staying up late in Australia and New Zealand. So thank you to them for being with us tonight. And we're going